Hey everybody, so I forgot to do a recap on Thursday, so I might as well get that out today. So what we did on Thursday was continue trying to get our Twitch API to work. We have this, right, the Trello API automation that we're trying to do to drive events and manage Twitch events, but of course Twitch doesn't have an API. So what we ended up doing, and like I mentioned before, originally we were going to try and use something like Puppeteer and drive it, and that was very difficult. And then Josh found that they have a GQL endpoint, and even made this sort of prototype to prove that you could hit this endpoint with a proper authorization. So one of the things that we had to do was it doesn't work for third-party client IDs, so we had to basically manually go and grab this from log into the website and look at the requests that Chrome was making and use the client ID and authorization there. But once we did that, we found that we could query the API, we could update events and delete events and all this stuff. And it's kind of hard because it's not documented anywhere, and probably not allowed to use this, but we did it anyway. So this first thing we made was kind of a standalone authenticator that would get us a client ID and token. And so because recently I did this Facebook post script, it's 20 lines, and it is the only way that you can automatically post updates to Facebook now that they turned off their API. And it uses Puppeteer in a way where basically you just pass login and log in manually, and then it saves the cookies into a data directory, and then it can just kind of browse to the URL as if you were logged in, just like you would normally, and it could do some stuff. So we did something very similar for this, but we did something that we could only do with Puppeteer because it's based on Chrome's DevTools, which is we could inspect the outgoing requests that the page was making, just like you would do in DevTools. And so we looked for requests that hit the GQL endpoint. And in this case, I'm going to use this version to obscure the token, but otherwise it just goes to the dashboard once we're logged in and looks for that request and outputs it in JSON. So we could run it like this, right? And so then this could be fed into another script or program or whatever. So that was the first piece. That's kind of a nice thing to have. Then we grabbed an off-the-shelf GraphQL library, which is probably just wrapping an HTTP library, and kind of got to implementing this interface that's used by our Trello project. So we needed to get future events, events at a certain time, events by ID, post a new event, delete event, put or place an event. And it took some experimentation, but we ended up getting an implementation of all of that. It's not entirely using GQL. We're actually using that other undocumented endpoint to get a feed of events because the data model is kind of complicated. This was easier to do, and we were able to post events and edit events and delete events. We all got that working. So that's pretty cool. There's a couple of things missing. It needs to put events in the right event series or event collection so that they show up under the Indie Game Legend stream or the Workbench stream. Otherwise, it's pretty much good to go to use in Trello, so that's probably what we'll be doing next week. Anyway, that's it. Pretty good progress. If you want to keep following along, feel free to subscribe, and we'll keep making stuff. All right, See ya.